I looked at the weather app for this weekend. It's like the weather app's gone, yeah, all of it. All weather.
Yeah.
Today, there is genuinely a sunny sign, a cloudy sign, a thunder sign, a rain sign, and there is a warning for possible hail with highs of 28 degrees. The weather this weekend is going to play a factor. The wind will make it difficult for the drivers. I think we're going to get showers. And by the way, we've seen this in Canada before in the F1 world. It's going to be my first time in Canada experiencing it in person. Greg, I've had a nightmare. I've not known what to pack. I bought bloody everything, I can tell you. So the weather's going to play a part this weekend. It really is.
Hello and welcome to the Fast and the Curious. Team Principal Greg James here, steering the ship. During tonight's performance of The Fast and the Curious, the role of Betty Glover will be played by Greg James. Here I am. This is the podcast where we bring you the drivers, the people behind the scenes, the sights, the sounds, the nerdery, and we'll be taking you inside this sport as much as we possibly can. This week, our knowledgeable F1 gnome, aka the paddock botherer, aka Christian Hugill, is actually in Canada at the Gilles Villeneuve circuit in Montreal. Hello, Christian.
Hello, Greg. You say take you inside the sport. It was fortunate for the podcast that I do a bit of work for Formula One, and this weekend I'm doing that work and I'm talking to you whilst doing that work. So here I am, just outside the F1 paddock by a lake. Can you see the lake behind me?
Yes, I can. Yeah. This is the circuit that's famous for lots of things. Most famous, I'd say, for the Wall of Champions.
I'm excited to go and see the Wall of Champions. So I got to the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve about 45 minutes ago. Won't bore our listeners with the technical problems I've had, but I've ran around fixing some technical problems so I could speak to you lovely people. And here I am. So I haven't seen the circuit yet. I'm excited to see the Wall of Champions, which I'll explain why that is in a minute. But I have seen the paddock, which, Greg, it's quite a windy day. We are going to get all weather conditions this weekend, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute as well. But my biggest takeaway so far is walking into the paddock, you walk across a bridge that has got no sides to it, and there is just water. I'm like, this seems a truly terrible idea. It's not the first time it's happened. Clearly it's a thing, but I'm walking through being like, it's quite wide, but you feel it wobbling, and I'm like, this is the only paddock I've ever walked into where you walk across a bridge with no sides. It's like having the lanes down when you go bowling. It's slightly terrifying.
So it's the circuit which is famous for the Wall of Champions. I can hear lorries and things beeping behind you because I presume they're setting things up. It's also the circuit famous for gophers as well. Quite a few gophers have been hit there over the years. So it's also the circuit of roadkill. They often pop up in free practice. So good luck if you're on Gopher Watch this weekend. It's also the location for Lewis Hamilton's first ever win back in 2007, isn't it?
It is, and also my favourite ever F1 race, the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix, which was chaos, all the different weather, Jenson Button chasing down Sebastian Vettel and overtaking him on the last lap or so. Wonderful. And yeah, you see the Wall of Champions. So the final corner is like a little right-left chicane complex, which you can take really quickly. Now you stand and look at it and you think that's a tight corner. But if you get your racing line right, you can take it really quickly. The problem is if you take it too quickly, not only is there no runoff, there's a wall. So it's called the Wall of Champions because multiple world champions, including the likes of Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill and Jenson Button, have all been in it, because if you put the tiniest little bit wrong in there on a fast but tight corner, you're in the wall. And yes, there are also plenty of animals that live. Montreal's a very the circuit's on a bit of an island, like just off mainland Montreal, and it's quite green, Montreal, so there are lots of animals running about, even though it's sort of in a city. So yes, you do often see the animals throughout the circuit, and free practice does turn into sort of nature watch a little bit as people look out. So it's very cool though. It's lovely.
Turns into hunting season. So we've got a lot of stuff to cover on this Canadian preview. Actually, a lot of it is to do with things that are going to be coming down the line in a few months and years' time. For example, the 2026 rules have just been announced. We'll get into that in a second because they're complicated, but incredibly vital to the future of this sport and also to the future of the success of lots of those teams. Plus, we need to talk about the driver market as well. Where do you want to start, Christian? What's the word on the ground? I guess is there. What are people talking about the most in the paddock or nearby?
So, I've just arrived. We're recording this on Thursday. Most people will be listening to it on Friday. And 15 minutes before I started recording this podcast, the 2026 rules were announced. So I have had almost no time to look at them. So if you're wanting comprehensive, in-depth analysis of what it means, you're not going to get it from me because I've only just read them. Apologies for that. However, one thing we can say that everybody's talking about is that the cars are going to be lighter. That's the headline. So we bang on in 2026 on this podcast all the time, because that's when Formula One next has its big rule reset. And the two headlines we can take away: cool new engines that are hybrid, 50% battery, 50% fuel power. So much better for the planet. The cars will be 30 kilograms lighter. That's a lot. So it will make overtaking and following easier. And Greg, there'll also be a little button that drivers can press, like an extra DRS almost, but not the same technology, to give them a little bit of a boost when they want to overtake the car in front when they're within a second. So another overtaking aid as well. So lighter cars plus that overtaking aid will mean, I think we'll get some exciting racing. So it's all good fun. So that's what people are talking about right now, because it's just been announced.
Yeah, I've had a quick look at the comments, which is not a good thing to do. Never read below the line,
No.
Unless, of course, it's on the Fast and the Curious accounts, because it's a lovely, welcoming, funny community. Who are you waving at?
I'm waving at Sophie Almeida, who works at McLaren, who has just walked past me and isn't quite in our camera shot, but we've met Sophie, Greg. Not Sophie Ogg, who's been on the podcast. McLaren have another Sophie, so she just gave me a big wave. I'd like to apologise. Carry on with the rules.
Attention, please. He's like a pig in the paddock, is Christian Hugill. Anyway, yes, so what was I saying? The comments. So it was very much like, well, why don't you just bloody bring back the V10 and have done with it? Why has it become a woke nonsense? But you actually do think that, people now think that different engines are woke nonsense, which is where we've got to in the culture war, which is entirely depressing, but also hilarious seen another way. Yeah, so we think improved safety, but quicker cars because they're lighter, more chance of overtaking, and really making it more like Mario Kart than ever before with a little power-up button.
Well, yeah, and listen, F1 needs to evolve with the times. Everybody loves nostalgia and bringing back the old engines, but F1 needs to move with the times. There will be a record 6, I think I've counted that right, forgive me if I'm wrong, someone will correct me if not, I think it's 6 engine suppliers from the 2026 season, because Ford are coming in, because all the existing ones are staying, and because Audi are coming in. That's brilliant. More engine suppliers, more competition, that's great for the sport. The reason these new engine suppliers are coming in, Honda were going to leave, they reversed that decision, is because of this hybrid engine, because that's where Formula One has always been the pinnacle of technology, and that technology has always seeped down into cars.
Yep.
And that's why the teams spend money to race. They want to sell cars. People like Ferrari, and part of that is because Ferrari race in F1. The sport's technology needs to stay relevant. We can't make gas-guzzling, screaming engines like we did 15 years ago, because the world's moved on, and all the engine manufacturers are going, well, we're not going to put our technology into making that because that's not where the world's going. So yes, it's a lovely thing to go, oh, we should bring back the old ones, but that's not. F1 moves with the times, move with the technology. The biggest problem we've had in F1 is the cars have been a bit too heavy. That's being addressed. So I genuinely think this is a really exciting set of rule changes. I'm really looking forward to it.
You'll have to speculate here, but with the rule changes, do the teams and the manufacturers get the rule changes before we see it? And if they do, would they already have been working on stuff as in now for 2026?
They've seen some level of detail. Today they're seeing more level of detail. Yes, in answer to your question, they have been working on it for ages already.
So they'll also they'll really get going now when they've seen the rule changes.
Yes, it sort of ramps up.
Well, so there'll be whole teams of people while this season's going on and while next season's going, working on 2026.
Yeah, there'll be people working on upgrades for the next race, for second part of this season, for the 2025 car, and for the 2026 car. The teams are splitting their resources, and that's why the big teams with more staff who can split their resources to not just look at the next race, but also the next year, have an advantage. So yes, you're exactly right, Greg.
Exciting, really exciting. Keeps everything fresh, keeps everyone on their toes. And as you have said many, many times in this podcast, this could really shuffle the deck for 2026.
I've said it a few times because it will be more engine reliant, and there is always a shuffle when rules change. So at the moment, all the engines, there's not much between them. That might not be the case with the new rules. So yeah, it is exciting. People are excited about it. I'm excited to be here as well.
Oh yeah,
because I've only just got here. But this is number 2 on my bucket list, Greg. This event. This was one of the ones like Australia. So Canada's on in the evening in the UK, and it'd be like a prime time race to watch and get excited for. I used to get so excited for Canada. So to be here is just surreal and so cool. It's like I'm in the PlayStation game. I'm in the telly. It's amazing. So there is lots of excitement because people love this race. The rule changes are good. It's a nice buzzy feel as people are setting up for the weekend.
Well, I'm excited to chat about the next load of stuff we're going to talk about. Obviously excited for the weekend, but I'm very excited for our debrief, which will be on Tuesday, because you're going to be immersed in this world the whole weekend. It feels like, again, never a dull moment this season with the rule changes, lots of gossip you can glean from that weekend you can bring back to us. But also the driver market seems to be simultaneously getting more volatile, but also settling with some big names announcing that they're staying where they are. So do you want to sum up what's been happening? The big one, I guess we start with Ocon, do we?
Yeah, let's go chronological order. So the last race, obviously, Ocon and Gasly collided. There was the team principal of Alpine. We discussed it on the last podcast, saying they'll have to deal with the consequences. Now, Ocon subsequently announced, it's been announced that his contract's not being renewed and he's leaving the team. From what the paddock rumour mill suggests, it's not a direct result of that contact in Monaco, but it hasn't helped. And that relationship has reached a conclusion, and Ocon will not be at Alpine next year. It's not a massive surprise because that relationship has seemed strained for a while. That conscious uncoupling seems like it's been coming. So fine. I think Gasly will probably stay at Alpine. I thought it was possible that both would leave Alpine, or certainly one. It feels to me, could be wrong, that Alpine are putting their eggs in the Gasly basket. So it's like, I think Gasly will stay. Ocon has previously been a Mercedes sort of program driver. My understanding from the people I've spoken to, that's not going to happen. He's not going to Mercedes. Stranger things have happened in Formula One, but not much stranger. I don't think Ocon will be going to Mercedes. I think we can get that out of our heads. So where Ocon ends up, if he stays in the sport, is a question mark. So then, before we go on to the other big news, which is over at Red Bull, we have to speculate, well, who's going to fill that seat at Alpine? And Greg, that's where this weekend has a bit of relevance, because I think we might be about to see a bit of an audition in Free Practice 1.
Yes, Jack Doohan is replacing Ocon in Free Practice 1 this weekend. So as you said, an audition. Will he be feeling the pressure of that, or will he have also been given a sort of, this is up for grabs here. Come on, this is yours to lose.
So, I'm not sure it's quite his to lose. I think he's in the mix. I know, so Jack Doohan, young driver, has raced in Formula 2. He's been on this podcast. If you scroll back on the feed, back to Austin last year, I spoke to him when I was in Austin, and had a lovely chat. So there's more on Jack's career in that interview if you want to go back and listen to that previous episode of The Fast and the Curious. He's an Aussie. He's a really nice guy. He's very confident. He's got the confident Aussie swagger of, I know I'm a good racing driver. I know I can do a job for them. And he's got backers at Alpine. Alpine like him. I've heard a couple of people say to me at Alpine, I think he'd do, like if he got the chance that Ollie Behrman had earlier in the year, he'd do a good job. So he is in with a chance of that seat. He's liked in the team. I think it'd be a more harmonious relationship with Gasly. I think it could happen. So he's done 3 practice sessions before and done a solid job. All he needs to do is go out, complete the practice programs, don't put it in the wall, don't be stupidly slow, and they'll be thinking, okay, yeah, this is good. Go out and do a solid job, and he will only increase his chances of getting that seat. So it's a little bit of an open audition in Free Practice 1.
To Red Bull now, and the big famous news, really, is that Sergio Perez is staying until 2026 at least.
This is a surprise. for a couple of reasons. The Ocon, we were chatting in the WhatsApp group, weren't we, Greg? And you said to me, is Ocon a surprise? I was like, not really. This one I am surprised at. Now, I'm surprised for two reasons. Last year, Sergio had a great start to the year, and then it all went wrong from Miami. It's not been quite as dramatic collapse this year, but again, we've seen a similar thing. Solid start to the year, then has fallen off. And yet Red Bull have gone, no, you've shown us enough. We like our harmony. You stay in the seat. I thought with Carlos Sainz knocking around and with other drivers knocking around, they'd keep their options open for a bit longer. They haven't. So that surprises me. What also surprises me is that it's a 2-year extension. From what we hear, Sergio wanted 2 years, Red Bull wanted 1 year, and they've sort of met in the middle with a 1+1 contract of, we'll give you a year, and if you hit certain performance, points, we'll extend it for another year. I've said this throughout. We have seen with Daniel Kvyat, with Alex Albon, with Pierre Gasly, Red Bull have been ruthless in the past in ditching drivers. Now, I think what we're seeing nowadays is them sort of rowing back from that and going, all right, we might have been a bit too trigger happy in the past. Let's give Sergio a proper chance. And also, his record against Max stacks up pretty well compared to previous teammates. But all that said, if Sergio does have a collapse, he will be binned off. He just will. That is how Red Bull operate.
It's also surely a reaction to Red Bull's slightly volatile off-track year so far, and a steadying of the ship and just saying, look, everything's actually fine here. Adrian Newey's left. There was the whole stuff around, what's his face? I can't remember his name. Christian Horner.
Yeah.
So there's all of that, which is a distraction. It's dramatic. This is them potentially going, all right, we're cool. We've got Max. We've got the best driver in the world. We've got Checo's doing a good job. Let's just relax and see how we go.
I think that is a very fair bit of analysis from you, Gregory James.
Thank you.
Listen, they could have risked upsetting the apple cart. They also, I've said on the podcast before, it's not totally beyond the realms of possibility for Max to say to Red Bull, I'm going to go somewhere else because of the disruption, because of Mercedes supposedly looking quite good for the 2026 engine regulations. I also think there's probably an element of keep Max happy. Max knows he likes working with Checo. Do we want to bring Carlos Sainz in and risk it being a less harmonious relationship? No, we don't. Let's keep Max happy. Let's keep everything stable. Let's do everything we can to make sure Max doesn't leave us. Yeah, I think let's keep things stable is a very wise sort of reading from you there, Greg.
I'm a wise man.
You're a very wise man.
You said don't upset the apple cart. I think a few of those apples have fallen off the cart. I think it has been rattled, that cart. It's not upset, but I think it's been rattled severely.
Some apples have fallen off the cart. Adrian Newey's a big apple that's left the cart. Other apples this year have been rattled around a bit. They're going to opt to keep the remaining apples that they can well within the cart.
I'll tell you where the apples haven't moved an inch. In fact, they've probably put more apples on the cart and they're even more secure. It's bloody Ferrari and McLaren, I'd say. Things are looking pretty rosy over there, aren't they? Sort of lovely pink lady apples.
Yeah, they are. And that's where I'll go back to this weekend a little bit. Max has said, like the last 3 Grand Prix, we're not expecting the car to be great. I've said on the podcast before, they struggle in the slower corners. There are some slower fiddly bits in Canada. There's also a long straight where I think Red Bull will be fine on because they do tend to do well on the straights. They've got a good straight line advantage. So I think Red Bull will be competitive, and I don't think it'll be quite as bad as Max is sort of suggesting.
That McLaren's quick.
The McLaren's quick. I was just picking the brains of Lawrence Barretto, he's a brilliant F1 journalist. He works for Formula One, and I was saying to him, who do you reckon, Lawrence? And he said to me, I think Ferrari are looking good this weekend as well. So I would think Red Bull and Ferrari will be very close between, with McLaren not far behind, I think, which is sort of what we saw in Monaco, really. So, yeah, I think, again, we should savour another weekend where I'm sat here in Formula One thinking we don't know who's going to win the race. It's not a foregone conclusion. And, I'll tell you what I need to talk to you about, and this is important, weather.
It looks cloudy, looks overcast overhead, windy.
Basically, I'm opposite the car park. So the car park behind me, big lake, and you can see how choppy the water is. It's cloudy, it's windy, it's not cold, but it's not warm. Yesterday, we got the last day of a bit of a glorious Canadian heat wave, yesterday being Wednesday when I'm recording this. I looked at the weather app for this weekend. It's like the weather app's gone, yeah, all of it. All weather.
Yeah.
Today, there is genuinely a sunny sign, a cloudy sign, a thunder sign, a rain sign, and there is a warning for possible hail with highs of 28 degrees. The weather this weekend is going to play a factor. The wind will make it difficult for the drivers. I think we're going to get showers. And by the way, we've seen this in Canada before in the F1 world. It's going to be my first time in Canada experiencing it in person. Greg, I've had a nightmare. I've not known what to pack. I bought bloody everything, I can tell you. So the weather's going to play a part this weekend. It really is. We're not going to have a Miami and Monaco style sunbathing experience all weekend. It seems quite windy now. It really is.
All right. Well, we'll let you go and unpack and get all your cagoules ready or your board shorts or whatever, and go and explore Montreal, explore the lake, and find a gopher for us. And then you'll report back after the Grand Prix in what is set to be a very exciting weekend of racing.
Yeah, so I'll have a little bit of an on-air production meeting here. I'm going to try and do a little bit of a briefing with someone on the ground, a sort of post-race reaction. Don't know if that'll definitely happen, but subscribe to the feed, and if we can, if I can find someone to do a bit of reaction with after the race on the ground, I will. But then the next time we speak to do a sort of main podcast recording will be a matter of hours after I've landed back in the UK on an overnight flight, and I might not have slept since the checkered flag. So the next full podcast that you talk to me on, I could be in a terrible state. So there's an advance warning for you as the team principal, for the listeners, for everyone. I might not be making any sense, even less sense than normal. And then we've got to talk about Betty Glover on that one, who we've not mentioned, but there's been a lot going on in Betty Glover's life. So you could have two presenters on that podcast who are tired.
Yeah, we've got Betty Glover, who's just jetted off to Australia to go and do the coverage of the Euros for Australian TV, which is an amazing gig for her. We've got you in Canada. I think I'm going to be on holiday when we do the next one as well. So we'll all be remote, but because we all love broadcasting and we all love sports and we all love each other, we will be together via the web. Thanks for this little update, Christian. There's been some really good stuff happening. I can only imagine what happens after the weekend with all this gossip flying around and a potentially very exciting weather-affected race. So we'll catch up on the next episode. So subscribe to this feed and you'll get it delivered to your phone without you having to do anything. We're not quite done yet, though. Last week, we teased that we'd be giving you the details of our Silverstone ticket giveaway, and this is very, very exciting. We have 2 pairs of full weekend tickets up for grabs. So I'm gonna back away now and hand over to Betty and a pre-recorded Christian in the studio before you both flew off on your adventures. So here we go.
So here's what you have got to do to be in with a chance of winning a pair of tickets to the Formula One Qatar Airways British Grand Prix. Thank you very much to our amazing friends at Silverstone. So listen up.
Now, you've not got long on this. Between now, as in right now, and the end of qualifying at the Canadian Grand Prix, which of course is on Saturday the 8th of June, you need to slide into our DMs with your guess of the time of the fastest lap during the main race. Not qualifying, the main Sunday Grand Prix. And this idea, by the way, was suggested by Stuart Rick in our DMs. Thank you very much, Stuart.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. Great idea. So we're going to get a little bit geeky here, so you really do need to pay attention. It needs to be down to hundredths of a second. So maybe your guess could be 2 minutes, 14 seconds, and 367 hundredths. You'd be wrong if you gave that guess, so don't do that. But there we go, you get the example. And they need to be in the DMs so that people can't copy your answer, and then you'd have the best chance of winning.
It's the timing that you see on the F1 screens, 1 minute 12.123. That is what you need to be aiming for. We'll then pick the closest guesses after the race and invite 3 finalists right here to our studio in London for a special game of Beat the Christian. Trust me, I'm as nervous about that as you are. So you need to make sure you're available for Tuesday, June the 11th, and ideally you would come in person here to our studio.
Christian's going to get a fancy little jacket and everything just to get into that role.
That terrifies me, but anyway.
So obviously you need to make sure that you are available across the weekend of Silverstone. So that is the 4th to the 7th of July. Obviously, if you're not available, then you won't be able to come. So that would be very silly.
Don't waste all of our time.
The winning tickets will cover general access entry to Silverstone from Thursday to Sunday, but the prize won't include travel and accommodation. So make sure you're sorted. Make sure that you can get yourselves there, everybody. The tickets also won't be transferable to another person, and anyone under 18 would have to be accompanied by an adult.
Now, the full terms and conditions for this competition are pinned to our Twitter/X page and also our Instagram page. It's important you check those out. So check those out at the top of Instagram or Twitter. And most importantly, good luck. We hope to see you at Silverstone.
Before we go and everyone heads off to enjoy the Canadian Grand Prix, it's another chance to remind you of how NordVPN can help Formula One fans all over the world.
And obviously, as you're aware, by the time you're watching or listening to this, I'll be in Canada, so I'll have the full luxury, thanks to NordVPN, of being able to change my virtual location and being able to stream all my British telly, like the Antiques Roadshow.
You don't really watch the Antiques Roadshow,
though,
do you?
I don't watch the Antiques Roadshow, but I do like it when a posh lady finds a vase in the loft that's worth £5,000. That is quite good, isn't it? But no, I don't. No.
You are Christian Hugill sometimes in your 30s, and then other times this old woman just creeps out of you. Which I do very much enjoy.
It's true.
But if you were interested, Christian, tell everybody how much it would cost to make the most of their premium cybersecurity.
Yeah, well, that is the price of just a cup of coffee a month. Absolutely nothing. And to get the best discounts off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/TFATC, and our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. I love a freebie. Maybe that's my old lady side coming out. I do love a freebie. And there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the description of this episode.
Why would you not do it?
Why would you not do it?
Why would you not do it?
It's very good.
Anyway, that's the end of the episode. Thank God.
Thank God! On that bombshell, enjoy the Canadian Grand Prix. Bye for now. Thank God I don't have to talk to you like I got anymore.